We've spent over 10 years on air, shaping a generation of action motorsports, and now we're changing the game again. The best motorsports, the best action sports, and the best of pop culture with some epic guests thrown in. I am Jim Beaver, and this is the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki. Hold on tight, the misadventure is just getting started. Welcome to the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki. It's a special episode today. It's supposed to be special, episode number 500. You know, the funny thing is we've done way more than that. I think we're over 1,000 episodes deep if you count Project Action, Rally America Radio, GRC Radio, all our special live event ones. Like numbered episodes, 500. But even I cheated that because last week we had a Supercross special and with the Hill Brothers. And I called that a special edition just so we could have the 500 this week, which because of the current Best in the Desert announcement should have pushed till next week. So numbers are just numbers at this point. We are putting out a press release and things like that. But Lacey Blair, my guest today, because Lacey should have been on the show a long time ago, and I just decided to have her on this week for episode number 500. But that being said, also have Pierce Brown, Sarah Price, and Mitchell Alsup, the Martelli brothers, who have some massive news in regards to the Parker 400, and a whole lot more to drop here in the next week. So we are deep on the podcast side of things. But, funny thing about that is when I started this show, back in 2011. Yes, it was a very long time ago. 2011, December of 2011, we had our first show, episode number 1. 37 people tuned in. Thanks to all 37 of you that tuned in. Things have changed a lot since then. I've got a media and marketing company because of this show. We've been on Sirius XM, 200 AM FM networks, and the U.S. American Forces Network internationally because of this show. I've done television on CBS Sports because of this show. Very, very blessed. Have some amazing partners like General Tire who have been with me since almost day one. Things like Polaris RZR Star Car came to fruition because of this show. So thankful I am. Man, that was like a Yoda thing there. But truly thankful for all the support all of you listeners who are tuning in have given me over this run since 2011. Thanks to everybody that's listened, supported, bought one of my partner's products, followed me on social media, said nice things, said bad things, because the bad things, honestly, they energize me almost as much as the good things do. But yes, been very honored, very blessed to somehow carve out a living in motorsport, action sport, whatever I'm doing. And it's all because of the people listening to the show. You know, I guess if it sucked, you wouldn't have listened or listened this long. So, if you tune in once and you hear this and you never listen again, thank you. And if you've been here since day one, man, I would love to hear somebody that's been listening to day one. So if you're listening to this, been here since day one, man, hit me up on social, DM me, contact me through the website. I would actually love to hear from you. That's definitely facts right there. But, show's had many iterations. Kind of content has changed to where we're at today, and formatting's changed. And, man, I'm just very thankful. They say adapt or die, and the show is definitely adapted, and I think that's what you have to do to be around as long as we have. That's for sure. But moving forward, it's kind of funny. We had drop episode number 500 at the same time that we're no longer going to be a national syndication. I haven't been real public about that, but I see the podcast format as being what we want to do in the future, as well as a YouTube component. So you're going to see a lot more of us on YouTube. The show will be on YouTube moving forward. It has been, but our YouTube growth has been crazy. It's going to be on Facebook video and podcasts on our website and anywhere you can get your podcasts. But I don't know how many of you are listening on SiriusXM anymore and, in 200 AM FM networks and things like that. So it's time to move forward, really embrace the online component. We're going to be dropping, like we have the last couple of weeks, 2 to 3 new shows every single week online. It's much easier to do that. We don't have the constraints of national radio and a whole lot less advertisements, but support our partners who support us. But we're going to have less ads in the show. It's more all killer, no filler is what I like to say. So honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to each and every one of you listening to this or who have listened. Honestly, I've carved out a career in this world. I've become a TV personality, been at some amazing events all over the country, and it's all because of you listeners. And I love your feedback. I love hearing from you. And truly, I love that you guys have supported me to the point where I am where I am. And I would love to be able to give back to you in some way at some point because, man, it's been one hell of a life. That's going to keep on continuing, and just thank you, thank you so much. So Lacey Blair, my guest today. Lacey's an automotive influencer. Obviously, you've seen her on TV with the Diesel Brothers. Just an all-around badass, awesome person. Stoked to finally have her on the show. Like I said, we've got some big shows coming up. Big news dropping today. The Parker 400, the Martelli brothers, and their new off-road championship have been announced for 2024. I think it's going to be huge for off-road racing. It's huge for the town of Parker, as somebody who lives here, and really, really excited about what the future holds for off-road and, honestly, off-road racing in the town of Parker. I think it's going to be bigger and better than ever, and I'm really, really excited about that. So, that is definitely some big news. Before we cut to this short commercial break and get into this interview with Lacey Blair for episode number 500, would like to tell you, though, our partners at General Tire, they are throwing down one of the biggest savings of the year. Head over to their website, generaltire.com, or if you're listening to the show, obviously you're listening to the show. Where am I going with this, right? Well, in the footnotes of the show, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, our website, Spotify, YouTube, wherever, in the footnotes, there is a link. Click that link. It'll take you to the General Tire website, and it'll tell you how to get up to $70 off a brand new set of qualifying General Tires now through April 31st in this big General Tire promotion. So GT delivers, man. They have delivered this show to you guys for a decade now and a decade plus. And, man, they're going to deliver you some savings on a new set of tires. So hit that link, head over there, and get yourself some brand new General Tires. All right, with that being said, we are going to take a short commercial break. We come back, Lacey Blair locked and loaded right here on the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki. Making the most of every moment can be demanding, which is why at General Tire, we think you should demand more from your tires. For more than a century, we've made great all-around tires that always deliver the right combination of performance, durability, style, and value. Whether you're looking at the ultra-high-performance summer tires for your street rod or the best-in-class all-weather tire for your family crossover, General Tire delivers for those who demand more from their tires. Find your fit at GeneralTire.com. General Tire, the official tire of the Jim Beaver Show.
Conditions off the pavement are always changing, so why settle for a light bar that just turns on and off? The Rigid Adapt is a revolutionary new light bar that will automatically select from 8 beam patterns that range from a widespread 90-degree flood to a 15-degree spot based on your vehicle's speed. Try that with your knockoff light bar. A dash-mounted controller allows the user to toggle between adaptive mode, beam patterns, and RGBW accent lighting. With Adapt, it's easier than ever to own the night.
Don't just shred your way through any off-road rugged terrain. Get into gear with GSP XTV and let us redefine your adventure. The GSP Advantage of quality and performance sets a standard for UTV axles. We strive to provide premium ATV and UTV axles to keep you shreddy ready. Kick up some dirt and get in the driver's seat with GSP XTV. With over 35 years of experience, drive with a company you can trust. Drive with GSP. For more information, please visit us at gspxtv.com today. Like what you're hearing? Do us a favor and head over to Apple Podcasts and rate, review, and subscribe to the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki and never miss another show. Welcome back to the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki. I'd like to welcome my long overdue guest to the show this week, Lacey Blair. What is going on, Lacey?
Hey, Jim, what's going on? Happy to be here.
I know, stoked to have you. This is a big week for you. Giving away an H2, right? I mean, tell me a little bit about it. I think today you're actually giving it. So by the time listeners hear this, it's already been given away, but it's got to be a little bit bittersweet for you.
Yeah, for sure. I've been kind of sentimental all day about it. It ends in about 7 hours now, so the anxiety is high. I'm getting kind of sentimental and sad, but I'm really excited for one of my supporters to have it and kind of carry on its legacy. So I'm just blessed that I'm able to do that. So I'm super stoked today.
Yeah, it's actually rad that you're doing that because I've thought for the longest time, like I've amassed like this collection of UTVs and things like that. And I've thought about doing a giveaway like that and, and doing a giveaway for a UTV. So it's like I'm literally sitting back and I've been watching this thing play out going, you know what I mean? This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And it's like, it's awesome that you're in a position to do it, one, but I'm just like, as a marketer and everything else, like, and I know that's not the whole reason why you're doing it, but I'm watching going, man, let's see how this thing plays out because I want to do this for a long time.
Well, you should. You really should. It's awesome. And for me, like I've had a pretty sustainable apparel business with my brand for probably like 3 or 4 years. And so it was just kind of a way to be able to give back to my customers already and like give them a chance to win something with what they already buy. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's rad because like most people, I know I've got my friends at Motorsports Curated and they've been doing some giveaways with like dirt bikes and things like that. They've given away some side-by-sides, but it's like most giveaways on social media, it's like, oh, we're going to give out a hat or we're going to give out, a $50 gift card, like something like an H2, especially yours, not just an H2. I mean, this thing's freaking awesome. Like, it's kind of rad to see
list and 44s. It's a monster.
Yeah, it's like you elevated things, It's pretty awesome to see giveaways like that because it gets people to pay attention. Normally they're used to just some swag giveaway or something. People are like, yeah, whatever, unless I really like that brand, I'm not going to bother doing it. But this, like, yeah, this is next level.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, obviously we got that going on. I know Lone Star Throwdown was a couple of weeks ago. It's funny because I'm an off-road guy and I've grown up in this industry, and stuff like that. And it's like in the last 4 or 5 years, like there's this whole other side of off-road, like the big truck market, things like that I guess because I'm in my bubble in the Southwest, and it wasn't until 10 years ago when I became this, I guess, pseudo personality and got to travel, like to see how huge like these other segments of off-road are. Like, I mean, obviously you're shoulders deep in the big truck market, but man, Lone Star Throwdown, I mean, this is one of the biggest truck shows events of the year, right?
Yes, I absolutely love Lone Star Throwdown because you have anything from like competition monster trucks to slammed and bag trucks, and it's a little bit of everything, and like just a lot of enthusiasts getting together from all over the country, and I absolutely love it. It's funny though that you say that that's kind of a different side of the off-road industry for you, because I feel that way about the industry you're in. Like that's all completely new to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing, we'll get into talking about social media and stuff like that, but it's like, I mean, like, like you and I, like without social media, we would have never connected, right? You know what I mean? The chances are in passing, maybe we would have been at passing, met each other at SEMA or something like that. But it's like social media has really made the industry smaller, but I think it's great because like people like me now can go to an event like that. And I know people like you there, and I get to see and experience things like that, 15, 20 years ago, that would have never happened. Now, like, I can be a part of all these other parts of off-road than just what I'm used to.
It's seriously so cool. And Lone Star Throwdown was actually the first out-of-state truck show that I ever went to. And I just found it on Instagram, and I was like, I'm from a little town in Missouri. I'm like, I'm just going to drive there and see what it's about. And I just fell in love with, like, that whole industry.
Yeah. So I guess before we start talking about kind of current modern day, let's go back on your history because it is funny. You mentioned being from Missouri. You're from Potosi, Missouri, correct? Because I actually have some ties to Potosi, Missouri. My family, I guess I still have some relatives there, literally shirt tail kin that I don't even know. But I spent a lot of time there. Yeah, I spent a lot of time there with Rally America when I was doing their TV stuff. So I'm actually really familiar with Potosi.
That is so funny. I always forget because people either ever know it just from the prison or the rally that went on. And that was like the biggest thing that ever went on in our town.
Yeah. Well, I think it's actually happening this week. And funny enough, we're talking about it. And I think 100 Acre Wood is going on this week.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to check. But no, it's funny. There's actually one of my favorite stores, and I've got a picture of it. I'll have to text it to you after this interview. I think it's in Salem, Missouri, which I think is like an hour or so from Potosi.
Yeah, it's not too.
Yeah, so we were there for the rally, and we stopped, and I think it was like the end of the day. We're like, we need to go and get like a case of beer or something like that, And so we stop, and there's literally a store in Salem that is a liquor store, but it's a liquor store / gun store, and literally out front they advertise liquor and guns. And I'm like, this has got to be the raddest store on earth. And how in the world is this even legal, where you can go and get, a bottle of whiskey and buy a 12 gauge at the same time? Like, what planet does this happen?
Literally only rural Missouri, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and I just laugh because you walk in and there's this little old lady, and she's like she's in her 80s, right? And there's this little old lady behind there slinging booze and guns, and I know she had to have been the owner, and I'm looking at that, I'm like, she's very unassuming looking. I'm like, you don't want to screw this lady. I guarantee you she's a sharpshooter.
Oh, for sure.
I was like, yeah, that woman, she would put you down if you screw with her. You don't want to mess with her. But no, I've had some good time in that area of Missouri. It's really rad. I mean, it's a beautiful area. It truly is.
I think it's really pretty. Like, we get all 4 seasons there, and there's not much opportunity there, which is why I've kind of ventured out. But like, as far as a cute little town, like, I love it.
Yeah. So, growing up in that area, how did you get bit by, the big truck bug, like the automotive industry? I mean, give us your background, because, young girl growing up in Missouri. I mean, how did you get where you're at today? What was the thing that flipped the switch and you go, I got to be a part of this? What made you go and find Lone Star Throwdown and go, I gotta travel out to there?
Man, I would say it's a series of events that over just my lifetime that really don't make a lot of sense. But I would say, I mean, ever since as long as I can remember when I was a little girl, like, I loved trucks. I don't know if it was like dump trucks. It didn't matter what it was on the side of the road. Like, I was always breaking my neck at whatever I could like that. I think it just kind of stemmed from, kind of where I'm from. Everyone's mostly blue collars. So everyone drove work trucks. And then when I got old enough to, high school and stuff, to kind of do things on the weekends, the only things to do were like truck and tractor pulls. So I loved the diesel truck pulls and Monster Jam on TV. I watched that a lot. And I don't know, I just always had the itch for big trucks. And I never really knew. A lot of people would say, oh, well, maybe someone in your family was a mechanic. Maybe you grew up in a garage or something like that. But it was never anything like that. And I never even really dreamed that I would have a career in this industry. I had always just known that I wanted to be a business owner. I knew that. I just didn't know what business. So I actually went to beauty school. I graduated high school early, and I actually graduated beauty school when I was 17. And so I kind of had an early start and, just always worked 7 days a week, or went to school 7 days a week, worked several jobs, just, had the hustle in my mind. And so my first business was a salon when I was 20. My goal was to do it before I turned 20, but it turned out I was 20. So that was my first business. And then it kind of, I was able to work as much as I wanted. So I was able to save back some money and stuff. And so I finally bought my own truck and kind of started customizing it, doing some things to it. Not on my own. Still then, I didn't even know how to use tools then, to be honest. So I would just kind of watch my friends work on their trucks and kind of observe what was done to mine. And then I started watching YouTube and kind of tinkering with mine a little bit. And then when I was able to, afford the pretty wheels and all of that, I was like, I'm going to check out these truck shows. And then that's when I told you, I had went to Lone Star Throwdown for the first time. And basically that first year I started going to shows, I just kind of started networking with people. Of course, no one knew who the heck I was. But I was on Instagram and just sharing basically what I loved, whether that was pictures with my friends, pictures of the hair I was doing and my business and everything. And by the way, everyone thought that all my girlfriends thought I was, the weird one. They're like the weird truck girl, but we love her, So once I got on Instagram and started seeing that there's other females with trucks and girls that are into the same things that I'm into, I was like, oh my gosh, I've really never met anyone like this. So I started making those connections and making some girlfriends. And we all started going to truck shows together and just making connections with companies and, posting my truck on Instagram. And they're like, who's this crazy girl doing burnouts in her Cummins, and just kind of gradually grew from there, to be honest.
It's funny how you got your start, you know what I mean? And I tell people this all the time. It's like people sit back and they send emails or they do this, and I'm like, don't do that. I'm like, you need to go out, shake hands, meet people. I'm like, if you want to get started in this industry, like, that's the way to do it. It's a people industry. I'm like, it is definitely a people industry. And I'm like, even trade shows, I'm like, man, stuff happens at the restaurants and bars afterwards. It doesn't happen in a booth at a trade show.
Right.
I'm like,
Exactly.
but it's a networking industry. It's a people industry. I'm like, you've got to, you don't necessarily have to be a people person, but you've got to at least put yourself out there and introduce yourself. And like, it's just funny, your start, like, that's the way I would tell everybody to do it. I'm like, just start going to truck shows and introducing yourself.
Yeah. And it really, it took years to get anywhere, but one of my most memorable moments was the very first truck show that I ever went to, actually. I don't know, are you familiar with like American Force Wheels?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so they were like the first big company in forged wheels in like the listed truck industry, of course. And so I just kind of always had my eye on them. I was like, oh my gosh. And I went to their booth, and I guess I kept coming back and back because they finally were like, here's a brochure, here's a picture, it'll last longer kind of thing,
Yeah.
So they gave me a brochure, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to take this because it was a pretty thick, it was like their whole year catalog. I'm like, I don't want to take this from you guys. Like, I'll never be able to afford the wheels, and they're like, no, you will one day, like, just take it with you. And a year later, I saved up enough money to buy my own wheels. And then a couple years later, well, actually just 1 year later, I was working their booth at that same event and a couple more events. And then they turned into one of my sponsors. And yeah, so it's just kind of one of those things, just start from the bottom and network with people.
Isn't that isn't that a surreal feeling though? Like, you were the girl at the show, like American Force, that was like your Red Bull. They were up on like your Mount Rushmore, and then all of a sudden a couple years later you're getting free product from you. There's like we all have those surreal moments where you look back and go, how did this happen? Like, it's
Right.
pretty amazing. Like this is something I never thought was attainable, and here I am a few years later and I'm attaining it,
It really is crazy. Like, thankfully I've told that enough times and not cry over it, but I definitely get emotional over stuff like that.
Yeah, I know there was with me, there was one time with Global Rallycross, and I was just getting started in that series. Red Bull GRC was in infancy, and at SEMA they were out front, and I went and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm listening to the announcers and go, man, that would be awesome. Like 2 years later, I was at SEMA show in Vegas, and I was the announcer for that, and I just remember I was like,
so cool.
2 years ago, I was sitting there in the audience, paid my ticket, and now, you know what I mean, I'm the one talking to, 25,000 people, and it was a weird moment for me. I had one of those where it was just like, wow, like I went from being there to here, and it's just, I don't know. I think I still have those moments, you know what I mean? And it's kind of cool. I guess that's what keeps us going though, right?
That is so surreal. Yes, I love that. That's what it's all about, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, things hit it off. You started kind of growing a following. Obviously, then had a big move to Utah. Obviously, TV, that had to have been a complete different change of pace for a girl from small town Missouri.
Yes, it for sure was. So I guess about the timeline so in between the hair salon and then opening my own shop, I had just kind of started, saving money and dabbling into real estate, which sounds really extravagant, but in Potosi, Missouri, it's not. You can buy a whole house for like $40,000. So I was kind of getting a couple like commercial rental properties, and I had one that had a really big shop in it. It was like the old ambulance district building, and I had won it on a bid with the city and remodeled and all that stuff. And then when my renters finally moved out, I was like, I could make this a shop and maybe turn a hobby into something, And at that time, like I said, I still didn't know much, but I learned from the guys that worked for me. And then I kind of started picking up things that I could do, like spraying bed liner and powder coat and all of that. I tried to find things to where I didn't have to be a mechanic because I didn't know a whole lot at the time. So that's about, what I was doing. And I still had the salon at that time. And with the whole move to Utah, like how that kind of transpired, I guess you would say. So I was an ambassador for Diesel Power Gear. So of course, social media, like we said, it brings you great opportunities. And they were always like, you should come out for an episode or something. And like, I have two businesses here. Like, I can't find the time to come out and do that. And so let's see, I think it was July of 2019. My salon sorry, I don't want to get emotional. My salon building actually burnt down.
Okay.
And so that was kind of one of those things where something really tragic that at that point, the shop being a new business was my entire income.
Yeah.
So that kind of pushed me more into, okay, with the shop, I have to start making money, while I'm rebuilding here, doing what I'm doing. But it was one of those things where something tragic opened more doors than what I ever really could have imagined. It was something that I didn't understand the reason for at the time. But it freed up my schedule for me to be able to go to Utah, see how that was. And then when they offered me like a full-time job there, I ended up, this was hard to do, but I ended up closing my shop in Missouri. And I'm like, I'm just going to go for this. This kind of seems like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Yeah. I want to kind of see how the show business side of things are. And so I made the move to Utah, and all of that happened. It just seems like a blur. It doesn't even seem real that all of that happened. And yeah, so that was a great experience. Like I said, I definitely got to understand more of the show business side of things. And they had some really talented mechanics and fabricators that I probably learned the most when I worked there, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I know, leaving there had to have been a big choice for you, because I know you had so much going on that was like personal projects, things like that, you know what I mean, that I've heard that, were kind of, you weren't able to concentrate on, but you've got this consistent paycheck, like to bet on yourself. And I tell people this all the time. I'm like, at some point we all have to bet on ourselves, like to walk away from that, I guess, that constant paycheck, you know what I mean? In the known into the unknown, that had to have been a really tough decision for you.
Yeah, for sure. So when I worked there in Utah, that was actually the first time that I had ever been employed by somebody since I had started my own business. So at first that was really nice. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to pay for this powder coat up front and then wait to get paid for the job. And, all, like you said, a consistent paycheck. It was really, really nice. And then I think, COVID hit, and we kind of had a scare of like, are we going to have a job? Yeah. The production team's going home. It's getting a little bit scary. And I think that, those 2 weeks of quarantine, I was like, I can't quarantine. I'm going to go crazy. But I focused more on my own things again. And that's when I really realized that, I'm not meant to be an employee, I don't think. So that's kind of around the, time that I decided to make the decision to just work for myself again. Yeah. And I think it was a good decision. Seems that way anyways.
Yeah, it seems like you're doing all right. It's funny though, because I've had this conversation with a ton of people, and like I have my business before COVID and I have my business after COVID. And right. I feel like, and there's as many similarities as there are differences, but I tell people, I'm like, the one positive to come out of COVID, I was like, is the creativity. And, because people like, we sat there and we had nothing to do. Literally the world was shut down, and as, us in the little more right-leaning states, we opened up a whole hell of a lot sooner than others, but it was like there was still a window there about a month where not a whole heck of a lot was going on, and people like you and I were just sitting on our hands, and we got really creative and started punching out content and doing weird things. And, all of a sudden, I know, like with me, we're on TV doing stuff for CBS Sports because we could do it virtually, and like it was just really, really bizarre. But I'm like, I think it was amazing for what it did for our industry, because there's so many people like you and I who, we couldn't rest on our laurels and we had to get creative. And it's like, man, like it really took me into another level that I didn't know was there, and I'm sure you were the same.
Yes, I really think that was a pivot point for a lot of people, because I think you either, failed during COVID or you figured out a way to thrive during COVID. And I think it brought the best out of a lot of people, to be honest.
Yeah, I would completely stand by that statement. I think there was a lot of us, like you said, that did thrive. So, I mean, kind of take us out, from there, like on, because all of a sudden now, I don't want to say you're a household name, but a lot of people knew who you were that didn't know before, you know what I mean? And now, COVID now is done. You're out on your own. Like, how'd you hit the ground running?
Yeah. So, man, I guess when I quit there, I started, working on my own projects again, focusing more on my apparel company. And then like YouTube and everything like that kind of made it where I was fully self-sustainable again to be able to do what I wanted kind of thing. So then I moved to Texas with my significant other. He lived in Texas. He's actually from Missouri. So we kind of went way back kind of thing. So he was relocated to Texas. So then I relocated to Texas. And I would say like we're thriving together, like he's got a shop, I've got a shop. We both help each other with our projects and what we have going on. And I just haven't let up since then, to be honest. Yeah. It's just been, one thing after the other, SEMA every year. Right now we're in Mud Nationals prep, actually. I know, with the side-by-sides, it's a little bit different than the desert racing scene, but more the mud scene. So that's what we're prepping for right now. But just kind of a different show every month, and it's exciting. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and I know obviously you've got, your YouTube channel, you've got your podcast. Like, just talk a little bit about social media. Cause I know one of my favorite videos that you post are when you go and you powder the wheels and then you have to go and like you clean them up and all of a sudden the chrome starts shining through and stuff like that. Like anytime I see you post something like that, I just stop dead in my tracks. I'm like, oh, I got to watch this. It's just instant gratification.
So many people say that that's mesmerizing. Like, I could watch this all day.
Yeah, it's just funny. Out of everything you post, those are the ones that get me to completely stop. Where I'm like, all right, either that or I'll hit. If I don't have time, I'll save it, and then I'll go back into my save stuff to watch it later. Just because I'm like, it's just so. I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's pretty amazing. But do you want to talk about social for a minute? Because you had a hiccup here. Like a year ago? You had grown your social following huge, and you lost your main account. How did that happen? Because I know this other account you've grown back, but God, that had to have been just a gut punch.
Yes, so that happened in December last year. So it's only been, I want to say 3 months now. My Instagram page that I've had that thing for 11 years. So it had so many memories on it. People ask me about how do you grow your social media, and I'm like, mine was a very gradual grow with that page. It had grown up to 300,070 something. But just one day it was just poof, gone. And I haven't had any luck on getting it back. I didn't violate community guidelines or anything like that. I did have a couple people look into it that said I got reported for, business imitation, as though someone was saying that I was imitating my own business, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of been a fluke thing, and Facebook hasn't been very helpful with getting it back at all. But I really haven't let it get me down, I've got this new page built up to, I'll probably hit 100,000 in a couple days. So I'm super thankful that, my older following has found me and stuck with me, and I think some new people as well. So I just didn't skip a beat. We're just growing every day.
It's funny. I had something happen like that about 5-6 years ago, and I'd left one podcast company. And I've been doing my show for 12, 13 years now. And, I had this following I built up since the beginning, and like this company and I was moving to a different platform because the other one was dated, and literally they refused to let me have my RSS feed. And it was one of those where I'm like, you do realize what, like this, I'm like, I have to start from ground zero, literally like 6-7 years would be like you losing your YouTube channel. You know what I mean? It was just like, what in the world, I've got 100,000 people listen to the show every single week, and you're going to start from ground zero? Like, what's going on here? And and I had to do that, and what's that?
It sounds like you conquered it, though, right?
Yeah, we're doing all right now, but going back to the whole thing, like it's kind of like you, where it's like, all right, so I got to start over. We've done this once, we can do it again, and you got to get really creative in how you market and get people back over there, And it's just,
definitely.
You to go from a handful to like 100,000 in a few months, that's pretty damn tough to do, Lacey. So you're doing something right.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was kind of one of those things. Once I got in the right mindset, which, like I said, I never let it get me down too much, because I'm like, there's worse things that happen in this world. But I'm like, this is going to be a good challenge. I'm going to prove that I can, build it from zero again. So I'm having fun doing it. And we'll see. I might still get the other one back. I have a couple people working on it, but if I don't, like I said, I'm just going to keep on trucking.
That's all we can do, right? I want to talk a little bit about like social content, things like that. Obviously, you've got a podcast, you've got a YouTube channel, you've got your social media accounts, you got your clothing brand. Like when you start looking at things, you know what I mean, as far as like content, because the algorithms on social media, things like that, they're changing constantly. I can't keep up with it.
My
It's
gosh.
like sometimes I'm like, I have 100,000 people that follow me on Facebook. Why? And then I'll post something and like it'll get this crazy engagement. I'm like, oh, that's why. And then the next thing I post and it gets like 25 people like it. And I'm like, what planet is Facebook on right now? But like when you approach things, how do you do it? Because obviously you're active on so many channels, just like I am. Like, what's the mindset, on what to put out there and how to approach things?
So I definitely pay attention to, like, let's say when Instagram kind of switched over to, they were prioritizing more real video content over pictures. I pay attention to that kind of stuff. But as far as everything else, I honestly just post what I enjoy or what I think my followers are going to enjoy, because it seems like there's no rhyme or reason anymore, to be honest. Like I kind of keep an eye on some trends as far as TikTok and, all that stuff goes. But really, I feel like it's kind of hit or miss. So I just post it. And I think the best advice that I always give people when they ask about social media is don't overthink anything, because then you won't post it. So it's best to just post it, It doesn't always have to be perfect, or you don't always have to pay attention to the amount of likes and stuff like that. So it can be frustrating sometimes, but that's what I do.
Yeah. And I agree. I tell people be constant. And I was like, and I've seen so many people like they'll want to post a video of themselves saying something and they'll do like 30 cuts of the video. And I'm like, just post it. No, I messed up. I'm like, just post it.
I do that sometimes.
I was like, just full send, just post it. Hit post. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, hit post and watch what happens. I'm like, because, it's like, I think we overthink it. Like you said, I think sometimes you just gotta send it. Just post it up there. Throw it out there.
I'm guilty of that sometimes. We're our own worst critics for sure.
Yeah, I am that way sometimes too, but so what's next for you? Obviously, things in full swing for you. I mean, summer's starting to hit, so we're going to have all kinds of shows, truck shows, things like that. But what's the next couple months look like for Lacey Blair?
Yeah, so I actually have some exciting news that this will actually be the first place that I announce it, I guess, if you're ready.
I absolutely. You got me interested now.
Yeah, so I really, like you said, summer's coming up, show season's coming up, and I really thought I was going to be in my normal routine of hitting as many shows as possible and events. But I actually got an opportunity to do a filming project for the next 5 or 6 months. I can't say the network that it's on, but it's an automotive-based show, and I'll be relocating to California for most of this year next week.
Oh, wow, that's quick. Next week. Oh, well, I mean, I'm assuming if you're going to be in California for the next 5 to 6 months, I'll probably see you here and there, because it seems like I'm in California every other week. So,
it's perfect.
Yeah, but man, that's great news. That's phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thank you. And the people that I'm doing the show with, like, they're some really talented and really kind people. I haven't met any of them, but I'm really excited.
So is that one of those where you hear who's on it, so you start messaging them and stuff like that, and you guys start having a dialogue?
Oh, yeah, we have a whole group chat.
Yeah, that's what's funny. Like, and one thing I love about this industry, it's like you and I have never met in person. I think we've been at events and maybe seen each other in passing, but never really met, hung out, anything like that. But it's just funny because you have these dialogue and you know these people, and it's like when you finally do meet them in person, it's not like it's a big deal. It's just like, oh, these are my friends.
Right. I almost always, I'll be like, wait, we've never met in person before, have we, to people? And they're like, no, we haven't. I'm like, wow, I feel like we have, just because it seems like we know so much about each other.
Yeah, right. That's amazing, though. I love that. That's one thing I look forward. I tell everybody, I was like, I love Mondays, and they go, why? I hate Mondays. And I'm like, I love Mondays. Start a new week. I get to accomplish a bunch of stuff, but I'm like, you know what I love most about Mondays? They're like, what? And I'm like, I never have absolutely any idea what's going to pop into my email inbox. And I'm like, I just love it, because I'm like, it's always like, it's exciting. It's like, what's going to pop through today?
Yes. What is going to happen?
So
that's pretty much my whole life. I never know what's going to happen next.
That's what I tell everybody. My life's a misadventure. I'm like, somehow I've made every wrong turn and I'm still going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, well, Lacey, it's been a blast having you on the show. Seriously, congratulations on the new project. Looking forward to hearing more about that and probably hanging out at some time in the future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It was my pleasure, and I'm just honored to be on here, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, Lacey, and we'll be back right after this here on the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki. When it's time to replace the tires on your vehicle, General Tire delivers the tires you need for both your next big adventure and your daily commute. Whether you need all-season traction, lasting tread wear, or a quiet drive, General Tires are designed to deliver whatever life brings your way. From all-season ultra-high-performance tires for passenger cars and crossovers to extreme all-season mud terrain and tires for light trucks and SUVs, General Tire delivers great performance. To find your ideal tire, visit GeneralTire.com. General Tire, official tire of the Jim Beaver Show. Wheel for your off-road vehicle, car, truck, or UTV, the choice is easy. You choose what the pros use. Rob McCachran, Keegan Kincaid, and myself, Jim Beaver, all exclusively use Vision Wheel, whether we're dominating Baja, taking the cup at Crandon, or shredding UTVs. Vision Wheel's trend-setting designs and durability will set you apart from the competition and your friends. Check out VisionWheel.com or at Vision Wheel on social media to learn more. Looking to have some fun on four wheels? Dirtfish Rally School has you covered. Packing as much adrenaline and adventure as you can handle into high-performance all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive Subaru rally cars is where the fun begins at Dirtfish. Just 30 minutes outside of Seattle and Snoqualmie, you'll get a chance to train up to 3 full days with some of the country's best instructors and be put through the high-octane rush of rally on mud, dirt, and tarmac. Get started today and call 425-888-7715 or visit us online at dirtfish.com and use code 911 for a 15% discount. Like what you're hearing? Do us a favor and head over to Apple Podcasts and rate, review, and subscribe to the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki and never miss another show. Welcome back to the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki. Big thanks to Lacey Blair for taking the time to call into the show. Big thanks to her. Good times definitely had by all. Anyways, episode number 500 now in the books. Don't forget Sarah Price and Mitchell Alsop coming up. Got Pierce Brown, Supercross racer, and a Supercross special coming up. Have the Martelli brothers, Josh and Matt, coming up. Big news on the Park 400. We've also got a special from Dirtfish Rally School coming up, and that's all in the next week. So if you're not already, head over to Apple Podcasts, smash the subscribe button, go over to our YouTube channel, subscribe there. Give me a follow at JimBeaver15 on social media. Big thanks to all of our partners, General Tire. Yes, don't forget right now, click the link down there in the footnotes of the show. Head over to their website through that link. And what that's going to do, that's going to get you information on their big spring promotion running now through the end of April, up to $70 off a brand new qualifying set of General Tire. So definitely get in on these savings. Best time of the year to buy a new set of General Tire. Big thanks to them, Kawasaki, Dirtfish Rally School. I'm heading up there this weekend. Can't wait. Rigid Industries. Yep, going to Camp Rigid on Saturday before I go there. Vision Wheel, our good friends at iRacing, Clean Freak. Man, we've got so many amazing partners in the show. GSP XTV Axles, the best damn axles for your UTV. And everybody that continues to support us. And you, listeners, thank you for keeping us in business since 2011. Definitely big thank you to anybody who has ever listened to the show. So I'm going to sign off. I got to get my KRX ready to go to Camp Rigid and be looking out for that special edition with Pierce Brown for Supercross dropping. And then we got Sarah Price and Mitchell Alsop on Monday. All right, have a great weekend. Be safe. See you next time right here on the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki. And that's a wrap for this edition of the General Tire Jim Beaver Show with Good Times by Kawasaki. Thanks for listening. Be sure and head to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the show, and follow at JimBeaver15, at General Tire, and at Kawasaki USA on social media. Itching for more? JimBeaver15.com has all the latest. We'll see you next time.